All right, Miles, let's talk Cincinnati Bengals here for a little bit. This is a team that's had one heck of an offseason. They made a lot of big moves, a lot of under the radar small moves that look to be really good for them. But we've got an interesting story that has come out, some details behind some of these moves that shows how smart the Bengals have been with how they've executed this offseason so far and why their future, long-term and short-term, continues to be very bright.
Yeah, Nick, and I think we're coming right up on the draft. We've already asked about who people want to pick with the first pick that the Bengals have. But the next thing I want to know from the Bengals fans is we know it's getting that time of year. You're digging through all of the top 100 charts. You're looking at the best players. Are there any hidden gem players that you think the Bengals could maybe steal through the draft that you think would really help out this team? I want you to let us know some of those guys in the comments below. And also, Nick, I want everyone to wait to the end of today's video to hear a special offer from the partner of today's video, Neuro. But Nick, what do you got on the Bengals?
Yeah, Maya. So obviously the Bengals are in a territory where they want to compete at the same level as like the Chiefs or like the Patriots before it or the Steelers for a number of years, kind of that dynasty vibe, right? They've got the right organizational structure finally in place. They think they've got their coach in Taylor and they obviously have their quarterback in Bro. Like he famously said, their window is always open as long as he's there. But one of the quieter aspects to being a dynasty and sustaining success in the NFL is even if you have quarterback, coach, and all the big organizational boxes checked, and even if you have a few great playmakers like the Bengals do, you have to have a lot of depth guys, right? You have to have that number 3 offensive tackle, that swing tackle, that number 4 corner, that 3 pass rusher, that extra offensive weapon. And you have to be able to get them on the cheap, and you usually want them to be experienced. You don't want to rely on a lot of rookies. It's usually how you lose playoff games. Rookies make big time mistakes. The Bengals, according to a report from Bengals Wire here, Miles, if you want to go ahead and throw it up, have gotten some great veterans at crazy discounts, which is exactly what you need to do to be successful in the NFL. This is from that report. When looking at the contract, the Cincinnati Bengals gave tight end Irv Smith base value of $1.75 million with a maximum of $2 million. It was apparent the team got a great value deal with high upside and little risk. Turns out it is the same story for cornerback Sidney Jones. According to Aaron Wilson of KPRC2 in Houston, Jones's one-year deal is worth $1.08 million, which means the cap hit actually checks in at less than $1 million. Now, for people who aren't familiar, there are league minimums depending on how many years you've been in the NFL. Sidney Jones is essentially getting a league minimum deal for his experience. So the Bengals picked up a depth corner, their number 3, number 4 corner, right? Depending on Chidobe Awuzie, how his recovery goes this offseason. So they have a quality veteran, number 3 and number 4 corner. Those positions matter, right? Obviously, you're going against a team like the Chiefs or any of these other playoff contending teams, you can have depth in the secondary. Those positions really matter. They got a veteran guy, a quality guy, a lot of experience for literally the league minimum. They got Irv Smith, a talented athletic tight end, to be their number 3, number 4 receiving option. Same thing. Those matchups matter in playoff games, big moments against big teams. They got him for a total maximum, the biggest they could cost them, $2 million based on these latest details. Miles, this is how you win championships. You get quality depth guys who are veterans, who have experience, who want to win at crazy discount prices. This makes the Bengals offseason, in my opinion, look even better. What are your thoughts on the details of these 2 moves and everything with the Bengals right now?
Yeah, Nick, when you look at a roster like the Bengals, you got to think about all aspects, exactly like you said. You got to think about the 3rd and 4th level guys. Because when you have stars like Chase, Higgins, Burrow, then on the other side of the ball, you got Hendrickson and Hubbard. Those guys are going to get paid, Nick. There's going to be big money dealt out to keep those guys on this team. So around the other side of the ball, you need quality depth and guys who know what they're doing, guys who've been in the league. You want to be solid at the other positions. They don't have to be elite, but they have to be good enough. And that's what these kind of signings do. When you have confidence that your 4th string corner in Jones comes out there and he's going to be serviceable. He's not going to, let up a ton of like 75-yard touchdowns. He's not going to get beat. He knows exactly enough to do what he needs to do. He can do his job. When you got a guy like Smith who isn't, a Travis Kelce, he's not, a George Kittle or a Mark Andrews. He's not that kind of guy. But he's pretty good. He's good enough for this Bengals team, and Joe Burrow can make him better. These are the kind of signings you got to get. And exactly like you said, when you are saving your pennies in positions like this, it spreads more money around, so you don't have to worry about paying Chase, about paying Burrow in the future, and how those contracts are going to affect you going forward. So I think it's a really smart move by the Bengals to, in the past, they pinched their pennies everywhere. They always pinched their pennies. They never wanted to spend. But we see now that there's a little bit of mix-up in the ownership, and they're trying to do things differently. Maybe they spend a little bit here, but they still have that old mentality of pinching their pennies in the right spots, and I think that's exactly what they're doing here, Nick. They got a couple of really value signings. They're going to help them keep that dynasty that you were speaking of alive.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I always go back to the Patriots, right? And because they're obviously the modern NFL dynasty, maybe the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL. And one of the things people always forget about them, obviously they had Brady, Gronk, and all the superstars and Belichick. They always seem to have really good depth guys. They'd have a guy get hurt, maybe a starting corner get hurt, but the guy that would come in behind him would be serviceable and do a good job. And so they just never were in a situation where you felt like the Patriots had glaring weaknesses. They always had a lot of depth, and that made them really tough to beat in the playoffs late in the season when injuries and attritional factors really take their hold. That's why these signings are so big. When people see these moves at first, they may be like, okay, solid, decent move, I'll take it. But late in the season, when guys are beat up, you've got some injuries. Jamar Chase is a little binged up. You need a weapon. Irv Smith can step up from the tight end position to be productive. You have injuries at corner. You throw in a guy in Jones who has some experience. He can step in and not be a disaster like you alluded to. That is huge late in the season come playoff time, because that's where the Bengals are focused on right now. They're focused on playoff success and to get a Super Bowl championship. And these two moves further that goal to a T, continuing to be a great offseason for Cincinnati. All right, Miles, we would like to give a special thanks to our partner today's video, Neuro.
That's right, Nick. And I want you to go with me on a journey really fast. I want you to imagine this. It's 4th and goal in the big game, Nick. Your team is relying on you to make the big-time game-winning play. I know you've been in this situation before, Nick. The stadium is roaring. The clock is ticking. The game is on the line. But if only in that moment you were able to have some Neuro Gum. Neuro Gum will help you stay concentrated, and it gives you a burst of energy without a nasty crash.
That's right, Miles. Neuro has thoughtfully curated ingredients and does endless lab testing, which means that you can reach the right state of mind safely and consistently. That's the most important part. It gives you a clean burst of energy and focus without the jitters of coffee or any of those other energy drinks.
That's right, Nick. And if you click our sponsor link in the description below, you can enjoy energy, calm, and focus whenever you need it.